Have you ever wondered if the pranks of Mischief Night on October 30th could summon something far worse than rotten eggs and toilet paper, something that turns the tables on the pranksters and drags them into a nightmare from the grave? Picture this. It's 1998 in a quiet suburb of Leeds, England, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of fallen leaves and distant bonfires, and the streets buzz with the barely contained energy of teenagers plotting their annual chaos. But for one 14-year-old boy and his friends, what starts as a simple act of revenge spirals into an encounter that blurs the line between the living and the dead, proving that some spirits don't just haunt, they hunt. As we delve into this bone-chilling true Halloween ghost encounter, you'll feel the chill of that fateful night creeping up your spine just like it did for them. And trust me, by the end, you'll think twice before throwing that first egg. Let me take you back to that ordinary school day that shattered into something extraordinary, something that still echoes in the whispers of those who lived it. It all began with a 14-year-old kid named Alex, who loved nothing more than kicking a football around the local park with his loyal border collie Max, or digging into his mum's hearty shepherd's pie after a long day dodging homework and bullies. School was the bane of his existence, a monotonous grind of bells and blackboards that he endured only because of his best mate. Danny, the kind of friend who could turn even the dreariest detention into a comedy hour with his spot-on impressions of the teachers. They were inseparable, those two, sharing bus rides home every afternoon, trading jokes about the latest football scandals, or plotting ways to sneak extra biscuits from the corner shop without getting caught. Life was simple, predictable, until that one fateful afternoon when Danny's world cracked open like a fragile eggshell. Danny was the golden boy of their year, the one who never forgot his homework, who showed up early for every class, who steered clear of the trouble that snared so many of their peers. He was reliable, almost boringly so, until he collided with Mr. Carter in the most unfortunate way imaginable. It happened right outside the boys' toilets, where Danny, emerging from a quick wash-up, bumped straight into the stern history teacher, sending a steaming mug of tea cascading across Carter's pristine white shirt. The scalding liquid soaked through in seconds, staining the fabric a mottled brown and filling the air with the sharp tang of Earl Grey. Danny stammered apologies, his face flushing crimson as he backed away, but Carter's reaction was volcanic. His eyes narrowed to slits of fury, veins bulging at his temples, as he accused the boy of deliberate sabotage, of some malicious intent to humiliate him in front of the entire school. No amount of pleading could douse that rage. Carter marched Danny straight to the head teacher's office, embellishing the tale with claims of a health and safety violation, of a potential third-degree burn that could have scarred for life. The head teacher, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for iron-fisted justice, latched onto the severity, demanding expulsion papers be drawn up on the spot. Danny's parents arrived in a flurry of desperation, tears streaming down his mother's face as she begged for mercy, recounting her son's impeccable record and the accident's innocence. After hours of tense negotiation, they bargained it down to 2 grueling weeks of after-school detention, plus 2 punishing hours every Saturday morning, a sentence that felt like eternity to a boy who prized his freedom above all. The head teacher conceded reluctantly that Danny hadn't meant harm, but warned him sternly to keep his head down and serve it without complaint. Danny's family absorbed the blow with quiet grace, advising him to swallow the injustice and move on, but not everyone could let it lie. Enter Paul, Danny's older brother by 3 years, a lanky 18-year-old with a fire in his belly forged from his own battles against Carter during his school days. Paul had despised the teacher since his freshman year, when Carter had singled him out for petty torments, extra assignments, public scoldings, the kind of targeted cruelty that left invisible scars. Hearing how his little brother had been railroaded ignited a blaze in Paul that no amount of family counsel could extinguish. He cornered Alex and Danny one evening in the dim glow of the street lamp outside their terraced house, his voice low and laced with venom as he vowed revenge. But not the hot-headed kind that gets you caught, oh no. Paul was cunning, a strategist who believed in serving retribution cold, like a dish left to chill until the perfect moment. He explained his philosophy with the patience of a chess master, outlining how a rash bike ride past Carter's house that very night, armed with 24 rotten eggs, would scream their guilt from the rooftops. Carter would know exactly who to blame, piecing together the puzzle from the school's recent drama. Instead, they would wait, bide their time for months, letting the teacher relax into complacency, convinced the boys had learned their lesson and moved on. And to add an extra layer of anonymity, Paul proposed striking on Mischief Night, that ancient tradition of youthful rebellion on October 30th. The eve of Halloween, when pranks blanketed the neighborhood like fog, eggs splattered on windows, toilet paper draped from trees, fireworks popping in the dark. Historically, Mischief Night traced its roots back centuries, varying by region, but always tied to the night before a holy festival, when children roamed the streets unleashing harmless havoc. In olden days, it meant pilfering cabbages from farms under the cover of dusk. But by the late 20th century, in places like the UK and America, it had evolved into a symphony of adolescent anarchy, rolls of tissue unfurling like ghostly banners, stink bombs bursting in gutters, and laughter echoing until the wee hours. Paul chose this night deliberately, knowing the chaos would cloak their deed in plausible deniability. But Paul wasn't content with mere vandalism. He craved something deeper, a wound that would fester in Carter's soul. Not physical harm. Paul was no thug, just a protective brother with a grudge, but emotional devastation, the kind that lingers like a shadow. Weeks turned into a tense countdown as they schemed in hushed tones, poring over maps of Carter's street, scouting the teacher's routines from afar. Carter, it turned out, was a fanatic for classic cars, sinking his modest salary into restoring a 1968 Jaguar E-Type, a sleek, silver beauty that gleamed like a predator in his driveway. It was his obsession, the one thing that brought joy to his otherwise dour existence, polished to perfection every weekend while he whistled old tunes under the garage light. Paul latched onto this vulnerability like a wolf to a lame deer. Wrecking the Jag would be poetic justice, a mirror to the way Carter had crushed Danny's spirit. Early October brought the first whispers of their plan, but breaking in under the cover of night posed risks. Neighbors' dogs barking, Carter himself stirring from sleep, sirens wailing in the distance. They debated silent sabotage, slashing the leather seats with a box cutter, spray painting crude insults along the gleaming bodywork. But Paul dismissed them as too fleeting, too easily repaired. He wanted suffering, the slow burn of realization dawning as Carter surveyed the ruins of his pride. Danny, still raw from the injustice, nodded grimly, his usual cheer dimmed to a flicker. Whatever Paul devised, he was in. Creativity became their ally, and Phase 1 unfolded with surgical precision. Enlisting Marvin, Paul's wiry mate from the local garage, to wage a campaign of psychological warfare. For 3 weeks straight, nearly every evening as twilight bled into night, Marvin would pedal his battered BMX to Carter's cul-de-sac, knuckles rapping sharply on the front door like gunfire. He'd wait just long enough for footsteps to thunder inside, then bolt like a shadow, vanishing into the labyrinth of alleyways that webbed the neighborhood. Marvin reported back with gleeful detail. At first, Carter's responses were measured, irritated mutters, a slammed door. But as the nights wore on, frustration curdled into paranoia. He'd fling open the portal red-faced, scanning the empty street with wild eyes, shouting threats into the void. By the end of the 3rd week, he'd taken to chasing Marvin on foot, his sensible loafers slapping pavement as he bellowed promises of thrashings and police reports, only to collapse panting when the boy outpaced him every time. The transformation was delicious. Carter, once the untouchable authority figure, reduced to a caricature of rage, his composure shattered like glass underfoot. All the while, Alex and Danny played their parts at school, feigning sympathy when Carter grumbled about yobbo kids in staff meetings, their poker faces honed to perfection. The 30th of October dawned crisp and electric, the schoolyard alive with furtive whispers of planned escapades, firecrackers in lockers, fake spiders in the girls' loos. But for Alex, the buzz was laced with nerves. He caught glimpses of Carter in the corridors, the teacher's gait hurried, eyes darting like a hunted animal, and each brush-by sent a jolt through him, as if the man could smell the plot on his skin. 3:15 finally chimed, freedom's bell, and Alex bolted to the bus stop with Danny, rehearsing the evening's choreography in frantic murmurs. Paul had orchestrated it meticulously. Rendezvous at 7 sharp outside Danny's, bikes stashed in the underbrush 2 blocks from the target. Alex confessed his jitters over a hurried crisp, but Danny's gratitude, calling him the best mate a lad could have, sealed any cracks in resolve. By 7:15, the quartet huddled in the gloaming, hearts hammering as Marvin initiated the diversion. He slunk up Carter's path like a cat burglar, fist pounding the door with theatrical force, then sprinted back, pausing just long enough to hurl a taunt, "Catch me if you can, you old tosser," before vanishing into the night. Carter erupted like a geyser, door yanking open to reveal a face twisted in apoplexy, bathrobe flapping as he charged after the retreating bicycle. But Marvin's bait worked flawlessly. Carter veered to his everyday sedan, not the precious Jag, keys jangling as he reversed wildly down the drive, tires screeching in pursuit. Elation surged through the boys. 15 minutes, tops, before return, and they surged forward, gloves donned against fingerprints, towels muffling their steps up the gravel path. Paul's fist, wrapped in cloth, shattered the garage's side window with a muffled crunch. Shards tinkling softly as they cleared the frame and clambered inside, the air thick with oil and rubber. Darkness swallowed them, but Paul's hand found the switch, flooding the space with harsh fluorescence. And there, nothing. The cavernous garage yawned empty, the Jaguar's spot a void where chrome and curves should have gleamed. Disbelief crashed over them like a wave, months of scheming, reduced to farce. Alex suggested retreat, perhaps a parting stone through a front window, but Paul dug in, eyes scanning shelves for trophies to trash, tools to bend, shelves to topple. Danny wavered, clock ticking mercilessly, but Paul's gaze locked on a weathered footlocker in the corner, military surplus with a rusted padlock, evoking Carter's rumored service days. Precious mementos inside, Paul wagered. Medals, letters, relics that would gut the man deeper than any dented fender. Rusty bolt cutters from a nearby rack made short work of the lock, the snap echoing like a gunshot in the confined space. The lid creaked open, revealing not treasures of war, but a cache of yellowed envelopes bulging with faded ink, a scatter of tarnished jewelry which Danny pocketed with a grin. And then, Paul's hand emerging with a silver-framed photograph of a young woman, her smile radiant against sepia tones, accompanied by a small glass vial cradling a lock of chestnut hair. Alex peered over, assuming a relative. Carter was a confirmed bachelor, after all. But Paul's face drained of color, the frame slipping from numb fingers back into the chest like it burned. Danny pressed, but Paul barked orders to return the baubles, voice edged with uncharacteristic tremor. Confusion mounted as they exfiltrated, bikes retrieved in a frenzy, pedaling into the night until lungs burned and legs screamed. Only then, slumped against a lamppost in a distant park, did Paul unravel the thread of terror. He was older, remembered fragments from newspapers just before Alex and Danny's time. A girl vanished on Ilkley Moor, 1975, her face plastered across front pages during the frantic search. No body ever found, presumed dead from exposure or worse, but the resemblance to the photo was uncanny. Same tilted smile, same wavy locks. The hair, the jewels. They screamed trophy, remnants hoarded by a killer who'd evaded justice for decades. Paul's certainty chilled the air. Carter wasn't just a bully. He was a monster, and they'd stumbled into his crypt. Numb, they wheeled to a call box, Paul dialing 999 anonymously, voice steady as he relayed the address and contents, omitting their intrusion. The line went dead, and they scattered, the weight of complicity settling like lead. Dawn brought no raid, no flashing lights, just a lone constable's perfunctory knock, a cursory glance dismissed as teenage folly on mischief night. Carter, forewarned by the break-in, had sanitized his secrets, the locker vanished or buried deep. Weeks dragged, Alex averting eyes in halls, convinced Carter's glare pierced his guilt. Paul preached patience, investigations simmer, arrests lag, but Christmas assembly shattered hope. Carter announced his departure, not to another UK post, but to an international school in Hong Kong, framed as adventure, a career pinnacle. Only the boys knew the truth. Flight, to a former colony freshly handed to China in 1997, beyond extradition treaties. No British cuffs could reach him there, his darkness safe in the east. Guilt gnawed deepest at Paul, the architect. By 30, alcoholism claimed him, a shell haunted by what-ifs. Danny and Alex fared better, but the scar lingered, a spectral reminder that Mischief Night's veil thins not just for pranks, but for the dead to whisper warnings through the living. And on October 30th since, Alex swears he hears faint knocks at his door, as if Carter's shade, or the girl's, seeks final reckoning. What would you do, listener, if your prank unearthed a killer's trove? Would you call? Or let the ghost guide your hand? This encounter proves the dead don't rest easy when secrets surface, especially under Halloween's watchful moon. As we peel back layers of this tale, consider how close we all skirt the abyss. How one bump in the hall can summon echoes from the grave that never truly fade. Alex's life post that night was a tapestry of half-shadows. Football games lost their joy, Max's fetch sessions interrupted by unexplained chills, as if the Moore girl's spirit trailed him home. He'd wake sweating, the vials glint in dreams, her eyes pleading from faded newsprint. Danny threw himself into studies, acing exams to escape the memory, but Saturday detentions echoed with phantom laughter, Carter's empty chair a throne for unspoken accusations. Paul spiraled quickest, his once sharp wit dulled by pints at the local, tales of the night spilling to barflies who dismissed it as tall yarn. Yet Marvin, the diversionary ghost, vanished soon after. Rumors swirled of a sudden move, family whispers of unease in his gaze. The neighborhood changed too. Mischief Night pranks tapered, parents locking gates earlier, as if the air itself held breath for what might emerge from garages uninspected. Years on, Alex returned to Leeds a grown man, family in tow, drawn by nostalgia's pull. The old school stood crumbling, Carter's house sold thrice over, each owner fleeing after months of oddities. Lights flickering sans bulbs, drawers rifled for letters never sent. He walked Ilkley Moor at dusk, October 30th again, fog coiling like fingers, and there, a silhouette young and wavering, waving not in welcome, but warning. She vanished into heather, leaving a single chestnut strand on his sleeve, proof that some encounters etch eternal. This isn't folklore, it's etched in police logs dismissed, in therapy sessions unspoken, in the way Alex still checks locks twice on Halloween Eve. The girl's name, unearthed in archived clippings, was Emily Hargreaves, 22, last seen hiking alone, her jewelry matching descriptions to the piece. Carter's Hong Kong post ended abruptly in 2003, death by accident, car veering off a cliff, witnesses swearing a woman's scream trailed the plunge. Coincidence, or justice served spectral? As you sit there, perhaps glancing at shadows lengthening, ask yourself, does the veil thin only for the innocent, or do the guilty feel its tug strongest? This ghost encounter reminds us that Halloween's mischief isn't child's play. It's a door cracked for the unresolved to slip through, demanding we listen or pay the toll. And if you hear a knock tonight, October 30th's echo, answer wisely. It might be a friend, or the start of your own unending tale. But wait, there's more to unearth. Paul's final letter, penned in delirium, spoke of dreams where Emily rode shotgun, whispering addresses untraced, urging one last anonymous tip that went nowhere, but stirred ripples. Danny, now a father, bans Mischief Night tricks for his kids, citing family history with a shiver that belies the warmth of his hearth. Alex? He tours schools now, cautionary speaker on bullying's shadows, but skips Leeds, the Moors call too insistent. Their bond endures, forged in that garage's gloom, a pact against the dark. Yet on foggy 30ths, they text coordinates, ensuring no one walks alone where she vanished. This story, pieced from interviews, diaries, and faded photos, stands as testament. Ghosts aren't chains rattling, they're questions unanswered, pulling us back until we face them. So, as pumpkins carve grins outside your window, remember Alex's night, how revenge invited the dead, and how the living must carry their weight. What prank would you pull, knowing the spirits might prank back? The chill isn't in the telling. It's in the knowing that somewhere, on a moor or in a memory, she's still walking, waiting for the ride that ends not in vapor, but vindication. And with that, we leave this first encounter. But the night's young. 4 more await, each colder than the last. Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker on a desolate stretch of road on Halloween Eve, only to realize too late that their eyes hold the hunger of something not quite human, something that turns a kind gesture into a descent into hellish delusion? Imagine cruising home from a raucous party in rural Texas, the October 30th wind whipping through your open window, when a soccer mom type pulls over, offering salvation from the night. But what if her salvation is laced with madness? Her SUV a chariot to a barn where prayers become screams. This true bone-chilling Halloween ghost encounter, drawn from the fog-shrouded highways of Shallow Water, Texas, in 2000 and something, will grip you tighter than those unseen bonds, making you question every shadow in your rear view. Strap in as we trace this harrowing tale, where the line between rescuer and captor blurs into nightmare, and the only escape is a child's innocent gaze piercing the veil of insanity. It's a story that proves sometimes the monsters wear familiar faces, and Halloween's tricks aren't confined to candy wrappers. Let's roll out into that fateful night, where one young man's infatuation led him straight into the jaws of the uncanny. Back in the dusty panhandle of northwest Texas, about 10 miles shy of Lubbock, lay the speck on the map town of Shallow Water, a place where horizons stretched eternal under star-pricked skies, and the XFAB semiconductor plant hummed like a mechanical heartbeat for its blue-collar workforce. 19-year-old Jake was one such cog, clocking shifts amid the whir of machinery, his days a blur of circuit boards and cafeteria banter. Ride-shares with co-workers broke the monotony, their morning ritual a pit stop at Hebrew's coffee shop for steaming mugs of Go juice and fresh donuts that melted on the tongue. It was there, amid the clink of spoons and sizzle of fryers, that Jake first locked eyes with Rita, a vision in faded jeans and a smile that lit the dim interior brighter than the neon sign. Their chat started innocuous, debating the merits of glazed versus chocolate frosted, but sparked quick. Numbers exchanged, texts flying like sparks from a welder's torch. By mid-October, dates dotted their calendars, drives to the drive-in, stolen kisses under harvest moons, building to a crescendo as Halloween loomed. Jake, wild about her laugh and the way her hair caught the dashboard glow, floated the idea of tagging along to her bash up near the country club, a sprawling affair of costumes and cocktails. Rita's yes was music, her friends a boisterous crew that Jake charmed with tales from the plant and a willingness to shotgun beers without flinching. He dusted off his old ghost-face getup, the black robe billowing like smoke, the mask a nod to Scream's slasher chic, and dove into the night, the air electric with bass thumps and laughter. The party pulsed with abandon, costumed revelers grinding to Monster Mash remixes, punch bowls spiked with something illicit, but bliss cracked when Rita slipped to the bathroom, returning pale as moonlight, eyes wide with urgency. Her ex, a roughneck from the oil rigs in the Gulf, had crashed the gate uninvited, his shift cut short by some corporate shuffle. The guy was a powder keg, Rita whispered, the kind who'd spot Jake's arm around her waist and erupt into fists, his buddies piling on like wolves. Jake's gut twisted. He wanted to stand ground, play hero, but Rita's plea won. Slip out quiet. Avoid the blaze. Goodbyes exchanged in hurried hugs, he melted into the driveway shadows, the big old house receding as he hit the road on foot. 2 hours to Shallow Water, no sweat. Rita's texts kept his steps light, her words a balm against the chill. But then, a buzz shattered reverie. Her ex, tossed from the party after a brawl, was gunning for payback, his truck roaring in pursuit with a posse baying for blood. Adrenaline surged. Jake broke into a jog, the ghost-face robe flapping like futile wings, mask lost somewhere in the fray. Highway shoulders offered scant cover, semis whooshing past in Doppler wails, each headlight a potential hunter. Paranoia mounted, every rumble an approaching doom, until an SUV slowed, passenger window gliding down to reveal a middle-aged woman in purple sweater and pearls, her face etched with suburban concern. "Need a lift, hun? You look like trouble found you." Her voice was warm molasses, and Jake, gratitude flooding, spilled the tale as he climbed in. Rita, the party, the ex's rage. Deborah, she introduced, chuckled at his dating woes, dispensing maternal wisdom laced with jest. Settle down young, find a nice girl. But he was 19, marriage a distant specter. Small talk flowed easy, the highway unspooling under tires, her route aligning perfectly to drop him home. But then a detour, eastbound on a rutted dirt track, trees clawing the sky. Jake's reminders met with calm assurance. A quick stop at a friend's, no imposition for such a lifesaver. Trust held, until the abrupt halt amid nowhere, engine ticking like a bomb. "Why stop?" he ventured, but silence answered, her hand delving into the door pocket to emerge with a snub-nosed revolver, gleam cold as her sudden stare. Time fractured. A burlap sack tossed his way. Command barked, "Over your head, boy, or I'll paint this seat red and cry rape to the badges." Disbelief warred with terror. Joke? Prank? But her eyes, flat as river stones, brooked no mercy. Questions tumbled. Where? Why? Met with venom. "Shut your demon mouth, I got no ear for lies." The bag descended, world blackening to must and sweat, the gun's barrel a prodding ghost at his ribs as the SUV lurched forward. Pleas echoed unanswered, her mutterings a litany of scripture twisted, exorcisms hurled at shadows only she saw, branding him spawn of Satan for his costume's guise, the party's sin. Miles blurred in sensory void until gravel crunched to stillness, her grip herding him blind into chill air, then wood-floored gloom. Arms outstretched, wrists lashed to a cold metal beam, barn rafters, he guessed from the hay scent and echoes, bag yanked free to reveal weathered planks and dangling bulbs. "Move funny, and God's wrath finds you swift," she hissed, vanishing into night. Eternity stretched, wrists chafing, mind reeling. Escape? Scream. But isolation mocked, the farmstead a black hole swallowing sound. Return brought horror's escalation. Deborah towing a girl, 8 or 9, wide-eyed waif clutching a rag doll, her daughter per the mad woman's coup. Gun unwavering, Deborah scripted the scene. "See the demon, sweetie? We'll pray it bare." Jake's denials. "I'm no fiend, just a kid heading home." Ricocheted off zealotry, the pair's chants rising in fervent crescendo. Our fathers weaponized against his soul. Volume climbed to hysteria. Jake's begs a counterpoint chorus. But the vastness devoured it all, no savior storming the door. Desperation crested as prayers peaked. Then, blessed fracture, the girl faltered, gaze locking on his tear-streaked face. "Mama, no demon, just a sad boy." Deborah's insistence cracked, her reappraisal a slow thaw from fury to fracture. Whispers of, "Mistake, O Lord, forgive," tumbling as she bundled the child away. Solitude returned, heavier, until Deborah re-emerged, sack in hand, gun holstered, but threat undimmed. Apologies flowed, a torrent of contrition for misreading his dark aura, for the godly duty that sometimes erred in spotting infernal foes. Freedom dangled on a vow, silence eternal, lips sealed on this night's folly, or revelations to lawmen painting her vigilante saint. Jake pledged oceans, bag reseated, wrists freed for the trek back to the highway's anonymity. Dawn's grey light greeted removal. Location vague but near pickup, her parting, "God bless keep mum for heaven's grace." Relief propelled his trudge home, but cracks spidered sanity. Report, or swallow the shame. Sheriff's desk brought measured response. No witnesses, Her word a fortress of piety, his a drunk's hallucination from party excess. Pressing charges risked mud-slinging, predator label in pre-MySpace whispers, reputation shredded in small-town glare. He demurred, stress's shadow too long. Rita's retelling sparked fury, then empathy, but the barn's echo lingered, a psychic bruise flaring on October 30th's. Deborah? Pseudonym, untraced, but whispers of similar demon hunts dotted panhandle lore. Women vanishing rigs after cleansings gone awry. Jake's life pivoted. Plant shifts blurred into therapy. Rita faded to memory. Highways shunned for cabs. Yet dreams replay the lash, the chance, the girl's salvation gaze, proof that ghosts aren't always dead. Sometimes they're the living unhinged. Halloween's Eve a beacon for their frenzy. What if that SUV slows for you next, listener? Smile back or run. This encounter etches that some haunts wear flesh, their chill bone deep from belief's blade. Have you ever guarded a cell in a fascist prison on the night before Halloween, only to witness a cult leader carve a talisman from stone that unleashes a frenzy of blood and betrayal, his escape a spectral vanishing that curses all who survive? Envision 1928. Italy, southern shadows cloaking secret dungeons where the church and state conspired to silence heretics. And one young guard's duty becomes a descent into occult horror as the veil rends on All Hallows' Eve. This true bone-chilling Halloween ghost encounter, rooted in the suppressed annals of Mussolini's regime, will transport you to those blood-soaked yards where the dead don't stay buried and the living envy their peace. Follow young Luca as he patrols the gloom, his rosary beads no shield against the man with no name, whose crafted horror turns inmates to beasts and guards to ghosts in their own skin. This tale warns that some spirits aren't bound by iron bars. They slip through cracks widened by forbidden rites. Born in 1911 to an impoverished hamlet in Calabria, Luca D'Angelo was 11 when Mussolini's black shirts marched into power, their banners fluttering like vultures' wings over a land starved for change. By 17, patriotism burned hot in his veins, drawing him to the Milizia Volontaria per la Sicurezza Nazionale, the paramilitary arm that promised glory and service to Il Duce. Idealism blinded him to the brutality. He envisioned noble patrols, not the grim guardianship of dissidents in clandestine prisons dotting the countryside like thorns. These black sites, veiled from public eye, swallowed poets, socialists, and worse, cultists deemed threats by the Vatican's Iron Pact with fascism. The Church, in exchange for propaganda praising Mussolini as divine vessel, outsourced its inquisitions, labeling unsanctioned sects as devil's spawn for state-sanctioned erasure. Luca's early posts confined him to communal cells, where artists scratched manifestos on walls before beatings broke their spirits. He steeled himself, whispering Ave Marias to drown the cries, until promotion thrust him deeper to solitary wings housing the regime's true terrors, partisans with bloodied hands, and cultists whose sins veered from mild, flagellant circles defying doctrine to macabre like All Hallows' Eve sacrifices to elder gods. It was here Luca first glimpsed the man with no name, dragged in chains from a midnight raid on a pagan enclave in the Apennines. Stick-thin, hair a tangled midnight cascade, he offered no screams under the interrogator's tools, only a serene, "I have no name," that chilled the chamber more than any confession. Whispers flew, leader of a sinister order, versed in rites that summoned shades from Samhain's moor, his followers scattered but loyal, plotting from shadows. Solitary became his cage, a stone crypt where light pierced like accusations, and Luca, assigned watch, felt the first prickle, an aura foul as grave mold, emanating from the slot where eyes like polished obsidian met his. Guards traded tales in mess halls. The man's cult carved hearts from goats under harvest moons, invoking entities that whispered futures in blood. Luca dismissed as tavern rot until the request came. A jagged quartz and sandpaper strip, innocuous tools for idleness. The warden, wary of madness in isolation, approved. Better a carving prisoner than a babbling one. Days blurred to weeks. Luca's rounds noting progress. The stone smoothed under patient strokes, edges rounding to an oblong form, oblong as a nascent heart. Coincidence, he told himself, but unrest stirred the general population. Demands for bread, air, echoing louder each dawn. Soccer pitches devolved to brawls, communal halls to snarls over cards, beatings quelled sparks, but flames licked higher. By late October, the yard seethed, inmates chanting Libera Italia under warden's gaze, their eyes feral as starved dogs. Desperation birthed a bargain. Cease by All Hallows' Eve, earn fresh loaves and vino crates, a cup per man to toast uneasy peace. Rejection met the offer like spit, escalating to riot as eve fell. Dusk painting walls crimson, air thick with portent. Luca manned the towers, rifle heavy, as chaos erupted. Prisoners not clashing with guards but kin, hands clawing throats, teeth rending flesh in frenzies biblical. Blood pooled ankle-deep in courtyards, screams a cacophony drowning Ave bells tolling midnight. Guards retreated, rifles barking at the lone breacher scaling walls, his form crumpling in floodlit hail. Dawn's light revealed apocalypse, corpses strewn like macabre harvest, survivors cowering in cells, wounds self-inflicted in blackout rage. Counts tallied all but one. The nameless cell yawned empty, save a husk on its floor, chest cavity hollowed, heart excised with ritual precision. Searches scoured vents, sewers. Nothing. The man had evaporated, his stone idol, now a polished effigy, man-shaped and eerie, clutched in the dead inmate's rigor grip, as if proxy for escape. Panic gripped command. The warden spun yarn of riot death, body mangled beyond ID, to shield incompetence. Guards, sworn to silence under threat of gulag, knew truth. Sorcery, the carving a focus for Samhain's surge, inciting the slaughter as diversion. Whispers festered. The stones shaping synced unrest's rise, completion heralding hell. Transfers denied, they rotted in posts, haunted by yard puddles that never dried fully. Luca, faith fracturing, bolted months later. Smuggled to France, then New York's shores by December's eve. America, his exorcism. Yet the nameless pursued in dreams, effigy pulsing on his bunk, heartless victim rising accusatory. Decades on, rosaries nightly, holy water splashed against old-world phantoms. Luca shunned Italy's pull. Pilgrimages be damned, the past a chain too rusted to break. His grandson, prying tales, learned the curse. Guards who spoke vanished oddly, accidents veiling ends. The prison raised post-war, but foundations unearthed bones arranged in effigy form, hearts absent. All Hallows' Eves brought yard echoes in Luca's Brooklyn flat, chants faint, blood scent metallic, until his 1980 death, rosary entwined, face serene as if reunited. The tale, pieced from declassified files and grandson's journals, endures. Fascism's shadows birthed more than tyranny, occult rifts where spirits riot eternal. What carving would you grant a silent cell, listener? This Halloween, as bonfires crackle, recall Luca's watch. The dead don't escape. They possess the night. Have you ever taught a child whose innocent fascination with Halloween vampires masks a possession so insidious it starves the light from his eyes, turning parents' love to lethal neglect under a holy man's decree? Step into a sunlit classroom in an English-speaking expat haven abroad, where October's decorations herald fun, but for one teacher and her eager charge. The 30th's eve unveils a demonic grip that wastes a boy to bones, his cape a shroud for something ancient and ravenous. This true bone-chilling Halloween ghost encounter from a conservative enclave's hidden horror in the early 2000s will haunt your lessons forever, revealing how the supernatural preys on the pure, twisting joy to jeopardy. Join the teacher as she watches her star pupil, A, embrace Dracula's allure, unaware his hisses summon shadows that feast unseen. This story cautions that some costumes don't come off. They cling, hungry, until faith's blade cuts deep. In a bustling international school nestled in a Middle Eastern oasis, names veiled for safety, The air hummed with multicultural chatter, 7 to 11-year-olds bridging worlds through crayons and chants. Ms. Elena Harper, 5 years into teaching, cherished the chaos. The boy who painted suns purple, the girl reciting Shakespeare in 3 tongues. Term's start brought a wide-eyed transplant from a strict homeland where ghosts weren't games but gospel, his English halting but spirit fierce. Extra lessons unlocked his charm, jokes in broken phrases, drawings of soaring eagles, and by September's end, he shone, the class's North Star. Halloween crept in with streamers and skeletons, a Western whimsy alien to A's culture, where witches evoked real wails, not giggles. Initial terror gripped him. Ghouls on walls, a gallery of nightmares. But Elena's gentle myth-busting flipped the script. We dress fears to tame them, lad. Vampires sparkle in fun. Relief bloomed. A dove headlong, enamored by Dracula's eternal night. The bat shift, a dream of flight unbound. I stay up all eve, teacher. Wings black as ink, he'd crow. Fangs plastic but grin genuine. Classmates, diverse as dunes, embraced him. Queries on his accent traded for vampire lore. Bonds forged in awkward grace. October 30th dawned festive. Post-lunch, a whirlwind of capes and cobwebs. A's bin-liner Dracula, a hissing delight, capes swirling as he stalked peers to peals of laughter. Fangs flashed. He begged to keep regalia home. Elena's nod sealing his weekend as pint-sized Prince of Darkness. Monday's absence puzzled. Headmaster's call yielded sick. Parents' English sparse, but assurances swift. Tuesday echoed void, concern mounting by week's close. No updates, just rest needed. Third call unearthed red flags. No doctor seen, reasons muddled in translation. Social services stirred, whispers of neglect, but bureaucracy bridled. 3 weeks to wellness check, protocols ironclad. Elena's classroom dimmed without A's spark, peers drawing get-well bats, her nights fretful with what-ifs. The knock came at dawn of the 4th week. Social worker rebuffed at door, A's folks stonewalling entry. Threats of badges and arrests fell on deaf ears, or uncomprehending ones, delaying raid till red tape unraveled. Storming the flat revealed abyss, a bed, skeletal wraith amid damp sheets, ribs a xylophone under parchment skin, eyes sunken saucers in hollow cheeks. Ambulance wailed him to wards, IVs a lifeline as medics raced diagnoses, dehydration acute, starvation chronic, 3 weeks on sips alone. Revival slow, but truth spilled in parental sobs. No malice, but mission divine. A's Dracula zeal, fangs bared, nights vowed eternal, flagged possession to a village elder consulted post-party. Demon in boy form, the holy man decreed, rites to expel via fast. Breadcrumbs, water drops, starving the fiend till it fled. Faith blinded them. Love, twisted, withheld sustenance, watching him fade as salvation. Exorcism 3rd week. Chants and salves in tongue arcane failed per the elder. Diet persisted, a wasting to whispers. Prison loomed for parents, custodial but brief. Cultural pleas tempering sentences. A fostered afar, his cape burned in ritual fire. Elena's career scarred, Halloween banned in her class thence. But A's ghost lingers, dreams of hisses in empty halls, fangs glinting in lesson plans. This encounter scars, innocence invites darkness, and some veils tear easiest for the small.